And the same message is coming from elite universities on both sides of the Atlantic. Not long ago, Harvard sent out a letter to all its freshmen saying, coming in for the new year, saying, welcome to Harvard. We want you to reach for the stars. We want you to be the best that you can be. But in order to do that, you need to avoid getting overscheduled. You need to leave time in your schedule when you do nothing. You just wander around campus, mooning around, sit under an apple tree like Isaac Newton did, sleep a siesta. And the title of that letter from Harvard University, the Mount Olympus of academic achievement, is simply, slow down. Now, I know what you might be thinking. You might be thinking, okay, food, cities, medicine, sports, sex, kids, I can see how slow works there, but the workplace? Come on, give me a break. This is the 21st century. You've got to get with the program. You've got to be up to speed, as we say. But that's wrong. Obviously, in the 21st century, the global economy, you have to be fast much of the time, maybe even most of the time. But if you're fast all the time, then you're heading for a fall. And that's because when we don't switch off, when we don't change gears, we have no time to refresh and recharge. We have no time to think deeply about things. And that's why in the world of work, you're starting to see a slow rumble or two. And I think there are three strands to that. The first is the idea that working less, fewer hours, can actually mean working better. If you look at the Nordic countries in Europe, they work the kind of hours that would make most Americans green with envy. Yet their economies rank consistently among the most competitive in the world. And they produce world-beating companies like our friends Nokia. That's the macro. You see it on the micro level, even here in the workaholic United States, companies like PricewaterhouseCoopers finding ways to force their staff to take a vacation. So working less. The second thing is working more slowly, changing gears during the workday, because all of the research shows that the brain needs moments of quiet and stillness to slip into that deeper, richer, more nuanced, more creative mode of thought that is the future for all economies, as we heard from Daniel Pink yesterday. And that's why companies everywhere are trying to carve out spaces where people can slow down during the workday. So chill-out rooms, on-site yoga and massage, even napping capsules and siesta suites. The third strand in the workplace with a slow revolution, it brings us back to this whole question of technology, renegotiating our relationship with these gadgets, which are wonderful, by the way. I have them all and they're fabulous, but they all come with a little button that says off on it. And we just don't use that button enough, and it's doing us harm not only to our private lives, but it's actually making us less intelligent in some ways. There was a report from Hewlett-Packard recently that warned that the constant barrage of electronic interruptions causes our IQ levels to fall 10 points in a day, average day. Think about that for a second. 10 points. That's double the equivalent of smoking pot or marijuana. So on one hand, our fast-forward culture tells us if you're always on, you're the first guy to answer the email, you're constantly there, 24/7, that is going to turn you into an uber-productive master of the corporate universe, when actually it's far more likely to turn you into Cheech and Chong. So you add it up. And I was in Australia recently, and the biggest financial business magazine there had done a big cover story on the future for Australian businesses, how to survive in this fast-paced, ever-changing, nimble, dexterous, exciting and thrilling modern economy. And they distilled all their wisdom down into a few tips. And the first tip was just simply, just like Harvard University, the first tip was slow down. So I think wherever you look these days, the message is the same, that less is often more, and that slower is often better. It seems to me that we're moving to a particular point in history, a turning point. For the last 150 years at least, we've been on a constant upward curve of acceleration. Everything has been getting faster. The pulse of everything we do has been quickening. And for most of that time, I would argue, that wasn't a bad thing, that it was a good thing, that speed did more good than bad. But in recent years, the pendulum has swung to the other extreme, and speed now is doing more harm than good. And that is why this slow revolution is taking off all over the world at every level of society. The term slow is being hung on everything you can think of. There are slow architecture movements, slow design, slow research, slow management, slow everything. And it's important to remember that when you talk about slow, it's not an extremist movement. It's not a fundamentalist movement. It's not about going back to the old days and doing everything at a snail's pace. I can't think of anything worse than swapping the cult of speed for the cult of slowness. Speed is great. It's about relearning the lost art of shifting gears. It's about understanding that there are moments to be fast and moments to be slow. It's about trying to do everything not as fast as possible, but as well as possible. Now, that all sounds wonderful in theory, you may be thinking. Does it work in practice for people like us? And I'm happy to be able to say that it does. And I sort of stand before you as Exhibit A, if you like, a kind of rehabilitated speedaholic. I still love speed. I live in London, which is a city of volcanic energy. I play fast sports like hockey in my spare time. And I love working to deadlines. But I've also learned to love slowing down, unplugging. I've got back on speaking terms with my inner tortoise, if you like. And what has that meant for me? It's meant that I take a lot more pleasure from things because I'm not racing through them. I'm actually doing them. I feel a lot healthier. I have a lot more energy. This is one of the ironies of slowing down, is that you're not so exhausted from going fast all the time, so you have more va-va-voom, if you like. I feel more productive and creative at work. I feel like I have time and space to grapple with the big questions now. Who am I? Why am I here? Where am I going? Why am I going so fast? What am I running from and to? And in some ways, the most important shift for me has been that my relationships feel a lot tighter because I'm actually there with people completely. I'm not talking with one eye on my inbox or thinking about the next item on my to-do list. I think, and this is why I think I'm in this session, I am happier today because I'm slower.